Okay, great. I think we shall start respecting all the people who have joined. It's already one or two. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rashdeep this side. I am the co-founder and CEO of Revisa. And today's webinar, we will try and keep it very crisp. So I think I'm going to do a one-way communication for the first, say about 20, 25 odd minutes. And post that, I will open the forum for Q&As. For the first 20, 25 minutes, I would request everyone to keep themselves on mute. And if in case you have any question in between, please feel free to drop it in the chat section and we can take all those questions towards the end of the webinar where we are going to open the forum for Q&A session as well. Right, so either you can write down your questions on notes or you can probably put it up on the chat section. Either ways is okay. I would request everyone to probably be ready with some sort of pen and paper to make some sort of notes because it's going to be more informational webinar that we are going to talk about. And as we all are aware, in today's webinar, we are going to cover everything about the AP. So we'll be taking AP under the microscope, and I'll be your host for the next 20, 25 minutes. Thanks again. Thanks everyone for joining in. And with that, let me start. So first of all, let me give a quick brief introduction about Revisa. So we are a high school support company which assists students worldwide to achieve their high school academic goals. We largely focus and work with students from grade 9 to grade 12. And we have two main verticals within the company. The first one is the test prep solution, wherein we help students to prepare for PSAT, SATs, ACTs, and AP advanced placement courses. On the other side, we also have academic tutoring vertical, wherein we help students with IG, IB, and A levels academic support. We have been doing this for the last 5 years, and we have helped more than 3,000 odd students so far. We are currently catering to more than 6+ countries and about 12+ cities across India and across the world. So that's what we have been doing at Revisa. With that, let me move on to the key takeaways from today's webinar. So in today's webinar, we're going to talk about what AP exams are, why one should write it, what are the benefits of writing AP. We will also be talking about the structure of the AP exam. How does the scoring work? How does score distribution table, which was there in 2020? We're going to talk about that. We will also be talking about few tips and techniques that one could use to ace these AP examination or the pointers that they should keep in mind while they're preparing for their AP exams. And then the very important question, which a lot of parents come and ask, right? How do they find the right AP for a particular course or the major that they wish to pursue or for the career that they wish to pursue, right? Similarly, how do they figure out whether a particular AP college, whether a particular college will give credits for the AP course or not, right? So we're going to take all these problems and we will deep dive into those and help you guys to figure out how do you get the answers to these questions. And then at the end, we're going to spend about 3 to 4 minutes talking about how we at Revisa help students to prepare for their AP and how does our program looks like, right? So that is what we are going to talk about in total in today's webinar. And with that, let me start with the first agenda for today, and that's about what is an AP exam, right? So I'm sure most of you would be aware, so AP stands for Advanced Placement Courses. These are the college level exams which are written on specific subjects. They could be taken up in grade 9th, grade 10th, grade 11th, grade 12th. You could be in any of these grades and you could write or appear for AP exams. The only thing is they happen only once a year, which is in the month of May. So there's a 2 weeks period window wherein all these AP exams happen. So you have to be very cautious about, especially because I know there are students who are coming from ISC, ICSC, IG and IB background. So if you're in IB and IG, you need to plan your AP prep really well because you also have your 10th finals or IB finals in the month of May, right? So you need to plan things well because AP happens only once a year, unlike the other standardized tests, just like SAT and ACT, because SAT happens 5 times a year, ACT happens 7 times a year. Right? There are a total of 38 subjects for which the AP is offered across the world. However, it varies from country to country. For example, in India, there are roughly about 20 odd AP subjects which are being offered. And even in those 20 odd subjects, you also need to figure out in your school or in your city, the school which is offering the AP courses, what subjects are they offering, right? So you need to be smart enough while you're picking up the subjects that it has to be offered by the school where you're planning to write your AP exam. If not, either you have to change your subject or you have to find a new test center to write this particular exam. Now, these 38 AP subjects are divided into 7 major subject categories from which you can pick up the subjects. And these are the 7 major categories. One is AP Capstone Diploma Program. There's arts, there's English, history and social sciences, math and computer science, sciences, and then you have AP World Language and Culture. So these are the 7 major headers under which we have these 38 subjects. Now, with that, let me move on to the next part, which is what are the benefits of writing the AP exam, right? Now, there are various reasons why one should write AP, right? And one of the major reasons why a lot of people write AP is because they want to stand out in the college admission process. They write this because they believe, or the belief has been that if you write an AP exam, since it's a very rigorous course, the colleges consider it to be of utmost importance, and they believe that you have done more than what your peers have done, right? And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people want to write the AP exam, to showcase to the college committee that you have done more than what others have done. And especially for the kids who are very academically driven, they want to showcase something that they're doing more than what their other peers are doing, right? So that's one of the reasons. The second reason why people write AP exam is because you get college credits. I know in the audience we have students and the parents whose kids are basically currently in IB. They anyway get college credits for the HL courses. However, the students who are from CBSE and ICSE background or ISC background, they don't get any credits for the courses that they're doing in grade 11th and 12th. And hence, AP helps them there. If, for example, if you are doing an AP calculus course, then you get certain credits. If you score above a certain score in the AP exam, then you get certain credits while you are in India. And how does that help? It obviously helps you to save cost, because in US, you're paying for every credit that you're earning, right? So it's much cheaper to get credits through the AP exams rather than going there and earning that credit. So you save cost, you save time, because if in case you have done a particular AP course while you're in India, you don't have to do the same course in US. So you could actually skip that course, right? So you obviously save time, and which also means that you can actually graduate early, right? So instead of 4 years, you can actually try and graduate in 3.5 years itself, right? So that's one of the advantage why a lot of people prefer to write APs. Some people don't want to some people are okay doing it in 4 years, but on the other hand, the reason why they do AP, and when I talk about to the parents, this is one of the reasons why a lot of students want to write it, because when they land in US, they have never washed their own clothes, they have never probably made their own food, whereas when they're in US, they have to start learning, doing all of this, right? So the first semester in college is not easy, academically also, plus even in otherwise in personal life, right? So if in case you have done AP courses, you can maybe ease out your workload in first semester, and students can get used to of doing all the other activities that they will have to manage on their own, right? So this is one of the practical reasons why people write AP exam or students write AP exam. As I have already said, you save money, right? So you save tuition fees because you get credits while you're in India. So that's an obvious reason for all of us to write it. And indirectly, you also get eligible for certain academic scholarships and awards, which are not directly mentioned anywhere, but if in case your profile is good enough, colleges do want to offer you scholarships. And we have seen that the kids who have done certain level of AP courses, they do get preference in terms of scholarships as well, because it helps, indirectly, it helps you to strengthen your profile, right? And if in case they really want you to be in their campus, they would offer you scholarship. So indirectly, it again helps you to save cost. So these are different reasons why one should write AP. And at the same point of time, in addition to these reasons, sometimes people also write it for various other reasons. Because, for example, if in case you are in IB and you have taken maths, physics, and let's say economics, right? And you're doing HL for these. However, while you are in grade 11th and by the time you reach grade 12th, you decide that you want to do a computer science major, right? And now you're not doing computer science in your school, and you want to showcase that you're actually interested in computer science. though you did not pick up that subject, you want to showcase your strength in that subject, right? That's one of the reasons why students who are coming from IB background write certain set of KPs. They obviously don't repeat the same subjects which they are anyways doing in school, but they would take up additional subjects which is basically not part of their school curriculum. So whether you're in IB, IG, A level, ICSE, CBSE, for all of them, there is importance of doing an AP exam. It's just about you finding out why you should do an AP exam, right? So that's an important part why we should be doing it. With that, let me straight away jump onto what the AP exam structure looks like, right? So they are generally 2 to 3 hours long exam. There are mostly 2 sections in every subject. The first section is a multiple choice question, wherein you will obviously be given 4 options and you have to find out the right answer. At the same point of time, there is no negative marking. So you can decide to, even if you don't know the answer, please feel free to go ahead and do guesswork because there is no negative marking. The second part that you have is a free response question, right? What is free response question? This is very similar to our school exam, right? Where you have to actually write down the answer using your pen and paper. So it's a pen and paper exam where you're writing down the answers, right? So that's a free response question. Though this is a standard pattern, but pandemic has changed things for everyone, and so it does for AP exams as well. So in the last 2 years, AP has actually started offering exam digitally as well. And in the digital version, they did not have free response. They only had multiple choice questions. They obviously increased the number of multiple choice questions, but they only had multiple choice questions, right? However, this year, they have very openly declared that in the month of May 2022, they will not be having any digital exam and it will be a pen and paper exam. And hence, that means they're going to stick by this format, right? So it's not just multiple choice question, it's also about free response question. That also means that you can't just do the guesswork, you also really need to know the content. Now, since we know the exam structure now, I think it becomes important for us to understand how does the scoring work, right? Now, so AP is scored on a scale of 1 to 5, right? Unlike IB, which is 1 to 7, and unlike CBSE and ICSE, which is 1 to 10, AP is scored on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 on 5 is a perfect score, and you consider to be an extremely well qualified, which is equivalent to A or A plus grade. And then you have a 4 on 5, which is very well qualified, and it's equivalent to A minus B or B plus. And then you have 3 and 2 and 1. Largely, most of the universities, and we're going to see that probably a couple of slides later, that most of the universities either accept 5 on 5 or 4 on 5 to give you credits. So your objective should be that if you plan to write AP exam, you should try and get a minimum of 4 on 5, if not a 5 on 5, to get college credits and to make this score worth a while. So that's how the scoring works. I hope the scoring is clear. With the scoring, let me deep dive slightly into the score distribution. And so the next couple of slides are basically will try and help you to understand or help you take that call that which is the AP should we take, right? And we're going to do it through 3 different processes. The first process is we will look at the data from the past score distribution tables and try and figure out where is it easier to score, right? And where it is most difficult to score. And based on that, we can try and figure out which APs one should write and which APs one should try and avoid if they can, right? And for that, I have taken the 2020 score distribution table, and I'm going to walk you through most of those subject categories that we discussed in the beginning, right? So let's talk about English first. So if you look at the data here, it says roughly about 9.3% student got 5 on 5, right? That's actually on a lower end when you look at the other subjects, which I'm going to show you. Then you look at sciences. AP Biology, only 9.5% student got 5 on 5. And I'm talking about worldwide, not just India, right? You look at AP Physics 1, just 8.8% students got 5 on 5. You look at AP Physics C, Electricity and Magnetism, AP Physics C, Mechanics. Both these courses, you have 40% plus students who got 5 on 5, right? So that's an important thing to note. Similarly, let's look at math and computer science. In math, you have AP Calculus AB, AP Calculus BC, and then you have AP Statistics. So within AP Calculus, if you look at it, in Calculus BC, you have 44.6% students who got 5 on 5, which is really, really huge. And on the other side, if you look at AP Computer Science Principal, that's roughly about 10.9%, which constitute, I mean, if you compare it, it is definitely lower, right? Next, let's look at history and social science. Under this category, if you look at microeconomics, macroeconomics, psychology, they're pretty much at 20% plus, right? On the other hand, if you look at AP World History, that's only 9.2% students who got 5 on 5 in 2020. So what do we infer out of this, right? So all the subjects that I've showed you in green, which are nothing but AP Calculus AB, AP Calculus BC, AP Physics C Mechanics, AP Physics C Electricity and Magnetism, AP Microeconomics, AP Macroeconomics. So these are few subjects where almost about 20 to 40% students were getting 5 on 5, right? So that means it's definitely easier to get a 5 on 5 in these subjects. And hence, if given an option, if you can, you should try and opt these subjects rather than trying to opt the subjects which were marked in red. For example, if you look at world history, if you look at computer science principles, if you look at English literature, so these are subjects where it's difficult to score, right? And hence that could be one of the criteria when you're looking at the pros and cons in terms of which subject one should write. So that could be one parameter that you could consider. So that's just one parameter, right? Similarly, there are a couple of other things that we can, based on which we can decide which are the APs that one should take. And let's try and get into that. And this is a question which I keep getting every time, right? Now, how do you find the right AP majors and careers, right? So parents do come and ask me this question saying, you know what, my kid wants to pursue computer science engineering. And so what are the APs that he should be writing, right? So if you have certain set of questions saying that my son wants to do mathematics major, then what are the APs he or she should be writing? Then this is the answer to the question, right? So if you go to College Board website, there's a place which says connect AP to majors and careers. When you go there, this is a search platform which opens automatically. You can choose a category. So let's say if I want to do it based on majors, I click on next. I choose a subject area. So let's say I want to take a science, maths, and technology as a subject area. And then these are different courses which they show me, right? Electrical engineering, fishing, genetics, forestry, geology, materials. Let me choose mechanical engineering, right? So let's say if your kid wants to pursue mechanical engineering, let's see what are the AP courses that he should be looking at, right? So it says there are 8 AP courses, and here are those AP courses which are listed. So you have AP Biology, AP Calculus AB, AP Calculus BC, AP Chemistry, AP Computer Science A, Computer Science Principles, AP Physics C Electricity and Magnetism, AP Physics C Mechanics. So out of these 8 AP courses, the student can decide to take 2, can take 1, can take 3, can take 4. It varies from student to student, right? So that's one answer, and that's one question that you have to answer individually while talking with the student to try and figure out what kind of workload student can afford at this point of time, right? Knowing that he will have certain other things to take care of. So you have to choose the subjects correctly. And at the same point of time, you also don't want to overburden the child with these subjects, right? But yes, out of, let's say if you have decided and taken a call that you want to do 3 APs, then you should choose those 3 APs out of these 8 AP courses, right? Now, if you want to relate this to the career, it also, I mean, it does that for you. So these are the 7 career opportunities which are related to mechanical engineering. So it could be an aerospace engineer, aircraft pilots, drafter, industrial designer, mechanical engineer, sales engineer. So these are different 7 career options. So you can either do this search based on the major, or you could do this search based on the career. You could do the backward integration either which ways. So that's one nice place to which can help you to take that call based on the major or the career that you wish to do, right? Now this helps to the parent and the student who is very clear about the major or the career that they wish to do, right? But at the same point of time, just like we guys, I think it's difficult for a 17-year-old to figure out what major or what career they wish to pursue, right? And I think there's nothing wrong in that, right? In that case, some people are very clear about the colleges that they want to target, right? So they know that, I would send my kid abroad only if he gets into, let's say, top 20 or top 50 universities, right? And you probably have a list of those 10, 15 universities. Now, if you have those, that's also fine. We have a solution for that as well. Now, just like the other website, you have another website here, which is basically how to search for AP college credits based on the colleges, right? So you go to this place, getting credit and placement. You go to credit policy search. Here, it will show you by course and find your college. So you go to find your college, right? And you search for any college that you wish to probably go to 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line. Let's say, let me take an example here. So I'll take a Stanford University here. Now, when I click on this, and it's going to show me all the different subjects for which the credits are being offered in Stanford University, right? AP Calculus, AB, BC, Chemistry, Chinese language, Computer Science Principle, French, Italian, Japanese, Latin, Physics. So these are all the subjects for which Stanford University gives out credit, right? So if you're not clear about the major, then you should take a call based on the college. At least you have to be clear about one thing or the other, right? Now, interesting thing to note here, right? I was talking about like some time back about you getting a 415 or a 515, and I said, it varies from university to university. Some universities are okay giving you credits if you have a 415, and some actually will give you credits only if you have 515. Now, actually, let me show you with this example here. If you see here, AP Calculus BC, it says minimum score required is 4 and number of credits given is 8. Equivalent course is maths 19 and 20. However, if you see the next row, AP Calculus BC, minimum score required 5, number of credits 10 and not 8. See the difference here. Equivalent courses 19, 20, 21. Now, what does this mean, right? So let's say Rajdeep goes and writes an AP exam and he writes it for AP Calculus BC. If I get a 4 on 5 and if I submit my score to Stanford University, they're going to give me 8 credits out of 10 credits, and they will allow me to skip maths 19 and maths 20 course. So that means semester 1, semester 2 maths, I don't have to do when I land in Stanford, right? However, if the same student gets a 5 on 5 in AP Calculus BC, I get 10 out of 10 credits, and I don't have to do math 19, 20, and 21. That means I can skip maths for the next 3 semesters and not just 2 semesters, right? So that's the difference. So they have given you credits for 4 on 5 as well and 5 on 5, but they have given you different number of credits for both, and you have different freedom in terms of the course that you are applying for, right? So Calculus BC 5 on 5, I can skip 3 courses. 4 on 5, I can skip 2 courses. And just a fun fact, Maths 21 is a really, really difficult course, right? I mean, I've seen a lot of kids who went from India and go there, they really struggle with that course. And when I talk to the students who probably would have done Calculus BC and got a 5 on 5, they find it really easy because they don't have to go there and do Math 21 course, which is in second year, first semester. So they can skip that math course. So, I mean, again, just a fun fact. So yeah, I think that's different ways in which you can figure out your AP college credits in terms of which AP course you should be doing, why you should be doing it, whether you know your major that you want to pursue or not, whether you know the career that you want to pursue or not, whether you know the college that you want to go or not. Based on different criteria, I'm sure at least one of these things you would know. Based on that, you could decide which is the right AP for your child. Right. So I think we have answered 2 important questions. The first important question that we have answered so far is, should your child write an AP exam? Is it, I mean, we talked about all the benefits. If you see any of those benefits align with your plan, then you should be doing an AP. Second, if in case you have decided that you want to write APs, then what are the APs that you should be doing or she should be doing? And I think based on these 3 activities, you should be able to land to a particular AP that you wish for the child to probably take up, whether in grade 9, 10th, and 11th, right? So I think that's largely about how do you figure out the AP, which AP to write, and which most of the parents are looking out for. With that, let me move on to the next slide, which is how to ace the AP test. I know it's a very generic statement that I'm going to talk about here. These are not related to subject specific. These are standard that you can follow for any subject, irrespective of what subject that you plan to do. I think these are few techniques and tips that you should be following up to do well in your AP courses. If somebody needs specific guidance specific to particular subject, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to take a one-on-one consultation session and talk to you. Right? Start now. I think that's really important. We are in end of October. I would say we are in November now. May is the exam. That means we have 6 months, right? So we have 6 months. That means we have roughly about 26 weeks. So we don't have too much time. So if you plan to do AP, do it now. Start now. Start preparing now. And secondly, more importantly, do the registration, guys. 7th of November is the last date to register for AP exam. So if you wish to write AP in May 2022, then 7th of November is the last date to register for AP exam. I know most of the audience, I think in today's webinar is from Bangalore. There are 2 AP centers in Bangalore. One is Bangalore International School and second one is Greenwood High. Greenwood High is a new center for AP starting this year. You could opt for either of these centers. But yes, if you have to write an AP exam, you have a week's time to take a call whether you want to write it. If you want to write it, you should register for it. Will you get another chance to register for it if you miss one now? Yes, you will. So March is the next date. But then obviously you'll have to pay extra to register for the exam. But so you can register with the late fees. So start now with regards to preparation, with regards to taking a call about the AP, with regards to registering for the AP. Start now. Utilize study material. So there is very limited material available out there for AP exam, and the reason being, it's not that popular in India for that matter, right? So make sure you collect and collate all the required study material from different places before you start preparing for it, because you don't want to every time keep going and keep hunting for the study material, and you will really find it difficult, because every time you sit for it, you will spend a lot of time just finding out the study material. So make sure the first step is collate and get all the study material before you even start preparing for it, so that you're not spending time and again on finding that. Third important thing is take practice tests. Take as many practice tests as possible. You could go to the College Board website, you go to particular AP course, and you will be able to see all the free response questions. They are available for free on the AP College Board website from the last 15 years. You can go there and look at the question papers there. You may not be able to see the MCQs, that's difficult to get by, but at least the free response question you'll be able to get easily from the website. So make sure you are doing, if you've already decided you're prepping into it, make sure you're doing as many tests as possible. Make sure you're doing most of the past year papers, because most of the questions are largely twisted from the past year paper itself, right? Maintain a schedule, very important. I think that's important even in general, because if in case you're planning to go abroad, I think the journey going forward is anyways not that easy, because you have to do a lot of things. You have to do SATs or ACTs, you have to do APs, you have to build your profile, you have to write college essays and whatnot, right? So it's a tough journey. You have less time, you have to do a lot of things. We will be talking about this scheduling thing in the next slide in detail. I'll try and help you plan out things depending on which grade the child is in, right? Next is ask for help. I think very important, right? If in case at any point of time you feel that you are not able to achieve the target that you are looking for, ask for help. Reach out for help to your parents, to your school teachers, to companies like Revisor, anywhere else, right? But ask for help and be on time for asking help, because you cannot afford to go somewhere in March and April and say, you know what, I need help now, right? That would be too late. You would probably write the AP, but if in case you don't get, as I said, 4 on 5 or a 5 on 5, it's of no use. The point is not just to write AP, but also to score certain scores, right? So ask for help at the right time, very critical. Study with other students, right? Again, this goes back to the point that you don't have enough study material, you don't have too many people writing it. So remember, you're not just competing with your friends. I mean, you're competing worldwide. So don't consider them as competition. I mean, they're your friends. They're going to help you. Make study groups, study together. I think that will help you, because some things they would have studied, a lot of things you probably would not have studied so far in school, so that you will have to learn new, fresh, right? So you probably want to study with a CBSE student, want to study with IB student, or maybe an A-level student, because you probably would have covered different topics, so you can teach each other if in case you're not looking at taking external help, right? So study with other students. So these are few general techniques, but trust me, it goes long way. It'll help you in almost all the subjects, irrespective of what subject you decide to write, right? So this is how you can, these are few things that you can take, use to ace the test. Next, let me talk about, as I said, about the timelines, right? Testing timelines. So you could be in grade 9, 10th, 11th, 12th. If you're in grade 9th right now, I think PSAT prep is something that you should start as soon as possible. You could do it on your own as well. I'm actually a strong believer of doing PSAT on your own. I believe that you should not take help for PSAT, though I run Revisor, but that's what I tell to all the parents that reach out to me for PSAT help. And one of the best resource to do the prep on your own is Khan Academy. It's a free resource, wonderful resource. I think to start with, it may not take you to a high level, but at least to start the base, I think PSAT prep can be done from Khan Academy, and do that in grade 9, right? Now, I do get parents, and we already have students enrolled from grade 9 all across India who want to write APs. Now they get this question, what AP should they write, right? So my general recommendation would be, if in case you're in grade 9 and you want to write an AP, I think pick a subject which is of your interest level, right? Which you have been working on for long, right? For example, there are some kids who are really passionate about computer science. It could be because of the parents' background and so on, right? So if you've already done something on computer science and you have some understanding of the, let's say, programming language, then maybe AP Computer Science is something that you could look at, right? So AP Computer Science A, for that matter, is one subject that you could look at. Some kids actually try and do AP Psychology, right? So that's another subject that some kids can do. AP World History is another subject. So some kids are actually genuinely interested in history, and they could probably try and target AP World History when they're in grade 9. That means this is right in grade 10, start of grade 10. That's when you're writing the AP exam, right? If in case you wish to write it. Then come the 10th grade, right? If the child is in grade 10th, then there are different things that you could do. You can start preparing for SAT, AST in grade 10th by this time, so that either late grade 10th or early grade 11th, you probably would have given your first attempt of SAT or the ACT. And to start preparing for SAT, AST, I think the 0th step is to write a diagnostic test. I would recommend and request all the parents who are here that please do write the diagnostic. Please encourage child to write the diagnostic for both SAT and ACT. They both are equally acceptable in US. Some people spread that myth saying SAT is more important than ACT, just because they, and in their own particular companies, they probably only cater to one exam. So they want to give you that false impression. But trust me, if you talk to any counselor, anybody out there, both scores are equally important. So you could write either SAT or ACT, and to figure out what is good for the child. I think that's the important criteria here, right? So if it's SAT or ACT, you should do a diagnostic, ask the child to write a diagnostic and see which is a better suited fit for the child, right? In general, what I have observed, if you're coming from an international curriculum background, which is IGCSE, IB or A levels, you seem to be doing better in SAT. If you're coming from CBSE, ICSE, ISC background, or PU board, then you seem to be doing better in ACT. Again, it's a very generic statement. It can change from student to student. So please don't go blindly on the statement. As I said, please do the diagnostic test. That's the first step. Then start preparing for SAT, AST, depending on which exam you decide to write. And if in case you have to write AP, I think I would still recommend something similar that I've recommended for grade 9 student. In addition to that, so there are some students who are probably doing, let's say, add math, right? Additional math, be in IB or in IGCSE, right? If in case you're doing add math, then AP calculus, if not BC, AB. AP calculus, AB, which is slightly easier AP, is something that you could write when you are in grade 10. That means before your grade 11 starts, right? Because you probably have covered all of that content or most of the content in your add math syllabus, right? So it becomes really important to see if you want to write AP calculus. You could also think about writing AP Physics in Mechanics. It's not going to be easy, but that's one that you could think about writing if in case you wish to, right? So these are the APs that you could write in grade 10th. And then you come to grade 11th. I mean, grade 11th, so a lot of parents ask me this question, right? PSAT, PSAT. So if in case the child is a US citizen, then you should definitely be writing PSAT in grade 11th as well. That means grade 11th October. So let's say if I'm in grade 11th right now, this month I would have done my PSAT, because that PSAT is also known as NMSQT, which is National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. So if in case I've done a PSAT in grade 11 and I'm a US citizen, I'll also be eligible for NMSQT. And hence, whether you have done the SAT before, it's completely fine, right? There is no method saying you have to do PSAT first and then SAT. No, not really. You could do an SAT first and then do a PSAT later, right? PSAT, you're writing only for your NMSQT, if in case you're a US citizen. If you're not, then you're just writing for the sake of figuring out where the child is. Then in that case, I would not recommend any 11th grader to write a PSAT. Just focus on your SAT and finish that off. There's something called subject SAT written here. That's no longer part of College Board. They're not offering subject SATs anymore, so you can skip that part. But yes, start AP prep, right? So that's important. This is probably the last chance when you could probably write the AP for your college application. Again, let me repeat that. This is the last chance to write your AP prep to strengthen your college application. If you want to write your AP only to get college credits, you can also do it when you are in grade 12th. That means even after when you got your college, you know, this is the college I'm going to, you could also, and you're done with your board exams and everything, you could actually write AP then also, right? It will not help you in strengthening the college applications and whatnot, but it will definitely help you for all the other reasons. Save money, earn credits, save time. So all those benefits will still be applicable even if you write after your grade 12th, right? So APs can be done at that point of time as well. I've written college application grade 12th. Obviously, major part of a grade 12th first semester, first quarter goes in college application. And hence, the recommendation is to finish everything, be it SAT, AST, or be it AP, finish it off in grade 11th itself, so that grade 12th, you are just working on your college applications, right? I've mentioned profile development. I mean, that's a continuous process. It's not a one-day process, not a one-year process. I think that has to be done through and through. So I think if you have started earlier, great. If not, grade 9, you should start. If you're in grade 10, you should start. Keep doing that parallelly, I think, right? So that's the standard timeline that we recommend. As I've said earlier as well, we are happy to sit with you guys one-on-one on a free consultation session and discuss it for individual child, what would be best. So I'll be leaving my number at the end, and probably one of my operation team's guys number. You can reach out to them and probably set up some calls and meetings with me. Right. So that's for the standardized testing timeline. With that, let me move on to probably the last slide, and I'm going to take maybe a couple of minutes on this, wherein we are talking about our offerings, right? What do we offer? At Revisor, our programs are where you have one session every week for 2 hours per subject. So the student would be doing roughly about 40 hours of classes, 40 hours of live content classes. In addition to that, they will have to spend another 40 hours for assignments. After each unit that they cover, they will have a unit test to evaluate their understanding and to see whether they are good with that particular unit. Are they good to go to the next unit, or do they need to loop back around and probably revise few things in that unit 1, right? Until they get a desired score in unit 1, we don't allow them to move to the next unit, right? So they continue in that feedback loop. At the end, we have kept almost about 1.5 months. And that's exactly what I would recommend to each one of you, that keep some time for full length mock tests. So 6+ full length mock tests is what we give out. And all these full length mock tests will be done live in the class so that the faculty can assess you, give feedback to each and every one of you. You can always ask for doubt clarification sessions. We create different WhatsApp groups, so you could probably put all your doubts there, and within 24 hours you can hear back from us with your doubt being clarified by the faculty, subject matter expert. In addition to all of this, in addition to live classes, assignments and everything, we also provide you a self-paced course. Keeping in mind your busy schedule and everything, what we have also done is we have collated program, which is a self-paced program, which provides you videos, notes, unit tests, quizzes, full length test for each and every subject that you would like to take. And you could do this course at your own pace, right? So that is part of self-paced course. So you also get all of this in the same program. So that is what we offer. And we just started our program 2 weeks back. So if in case you would like to know more about the program, and feel free to again reach out to us, drop us a mail, give us a call, and we're happy to again talk to you, explain it to you, and probably send out the mailers to you with regards to the program details. These are the subjects that we offer at Revisor. So in math section, we take care of calculus AB, calculus BC, statistics. In physics, we take care of physics 1, physics 2, physics C, electricity, magnetism, physics C, mechanics. In computer science, we take care of both computer science A and principles. In economics, both micro and macroeconomics. Then we take care of biology and chemistry and psych. So these are the subjects that we offer at Revisor. So if in case you're interested in any of these subjects, you could reach out to us. If they are not, if you want to write a subject which is not part of this, we are happy to probably guide you and direct you to particular resources that you could use on your own to do well in particular exam, right? So that's all. I think that's all that I had from today's presentation. Thanks for tuning in. And I think now I will open the forum for the Q&As. With that, I will first start taking up questions from the chat section, if that's okay. If in case you guys have more questions, please feel free to put it on the chat, or else after I've taken the chat question, you could, I think, switch on your audio and we could do an audio question as well. I'll probably start taking. Okay, I have first question here. Do students get credit for all HL courses? So is there an advantage of doing AP in the same HL subjects? Okay, I guess this question was asked before we discussed. I hope this is already answered in the webinar. Let me quickly answer this. Yes, you do get credit for all the HL courses, but you need to see whether that course is considered under that university or not, or for that major or not, right? So it's always related to that particular major, that particular college, right? So that is one thing that you'll have to look at. But yes, you by and large get credits for all the HL courses. Is there an advantage of doing AP in the same HL subjects? I don't think so. If in case you are doing an HL maths, I don't think you should be doing AP mechanics or statistics or any of these subjects, right? So you should pick up subjects which are not part of your HL subjects. I hope that answers your question, Ms. Mova. Next is from Megan. Will preparing for the AP exams be difficult being an IC student? How is it done? No, Megan, I think it's equally difficult whether you're on CBSE, ISC, or IB curriculum. It's all about time, right? You need to figure out how much time do you have. And I've already told you what is the time commitment if in case you're preparing with Revisor, right? So if you think that that's the amount of time you can afford to give, then I think it's not difficult at all. You can definitely do it. But is it easy? It's definitely not easy. Let me be very, very honest, right? Because it's a college level course. Remember that that's a course, if you're not doing now, you'll be doing it in a college first year. So it's a college level course. So it's going to be a difficult level, but it's going to be much more difficult to do the same course when you are in college than doing it now. Keep that in mind and then evaluate. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, Megan. Thanks for the question. Again, I have another question from Ms. Mawa. If a kid does Eco-HL, what is the advantage of AP Micro and Macro? Same question, I think, Mawa, which you had asked earlier. I would not recommend. If the kid is already doing Eco-HL, they don't have to do AP Micro or Macro. Mr. Rohan has a question here. Can you please suggest papers for 10 standard ICSC students? I guess I had answered your question, Mr. Rohan. If there's a follow-up question, please let me know. I think you probably put this question before we discuss that. But yes, just to reiterate, you could look at computer science if the child is interested in computer science, that's one. You could look at economics if the child is interested in economics. You could look at AP World History. But again, AP World History is difficult AP to crack, but that's one AP if in case the child is interested, you could look at. Yeah, these are few APs that you could look at if the child is in grade 10 and doing ICSC. I would not recommend any standard calculus, mechanics, physics, chemistry, bio. I would not recommend that. Our next question from Ms. Ketki, would you be sharing the PPT? Ketki, I will not be able to share the PPT, but I can share the recording of this entire webinar. All the people who have registered, you should get a mail back from us by tomorrow with the link for this recording, and you should be able to go back and relook at this PPT again. I hope that helps. Okay, next I have a question from Ms. Avni. What if you have IBHL subjects which also fetch you credits? Then how do you know if this will also give you credits? Okay, I mean, I think I did answer this question while I was answering Mova's question that you don't do the same subjects again. It doesn't really help. You should figure out other subjects which are not part of your HL, which you should be doing. Then the next question I have is from Mr. Balaji. What is the name of the site where we can search for college and credit it provides? Okay, it's on the College Board website, Mr. Balaji. What I'll do is I'll also attach those two links on the mail itself. I think that would probably help. So you all will get, since you guys have registered, you all will get a mail hopefully by tomorrow evening, which will have the recording, and it will also have the link for the two things which I had showed you here, right? How do you figure out the right AP based on the major, career, and college credit? I'll provide that, but it's there on the College Board website, AP College Board website. Ms. Mahua again, what site is this to search AP by college? Okay, again, I will share the link. I will share the link again. I think somebody has already helped me in that, Mr. Nagin. Thanks a lot, Mr. Nagin. If child is doing biochemistry and math HL in IB, is it required to do AP as well? And how about SL subjects? So, Mr. Nagin, it depends on what major do they want to do. By the looks of the subjects, at least, I could feel that probably the child is interested in biochemistry, chemistry, or bio. I think that's where the child is probably confused about right now. So in that case, I would not recommend to do bio or chemistry HL, right? Because I mean AP, because they're already doing that in HL. In addition to that, you could do something like maybe statistics. AP statistics is one course that they could look at. AP psychology is another course that they could look at, right? Because biochemistry has some relation with psych as well. So I think that's another subject that you could look at. You don't get credits for SL subjects. So definitely if you want to, you could do AP for those subjects. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Nagin. Mr. Akshat, how can you prepare for PSAT in 9th grade? I think I did answer that question. I think go to Khan Academy. They have a course for PSAT, good for beginners, good to start with. And I think for all the parents out there who are in, whose kids are in grade 9th right now and attending this webinar, I think good that you have started early. I think the major problem, and you can talk to any parents whose kid is in grade 11th and 12th are writing SAT or who have done SAT, you will hear from almost 99% of these parents that the difficult section, the most difficult section in the exam is reading section, right? So if you're in grade 9, I think one thing that you should start is start them on reading habits, right? I mean, start reading with them, right? And I mean, what should they be reading? Not just fictional, right? Because fiction is only one passage out of the 5 different passages in SAT. They should start reading Wall Street Journal articles, Washington Post, Discovery. So I think they need to start opening up, start their horizon in terms of reading something related to history, humanities, politics, social science, right? So they'll have to read from different zones to make them comfortable with the reading section, right? So if the child is grade 9th grade, you have a head start, start them on reading, right? Even if they read 1 article a day, I think that will help them a long way. Maths and writing, trust me, they will do well by the end of it. If they put in right effort, they will do well. But reading is one place where kids really struggle, and it's difficult to improve as well. Next, I have another question from Ms. Mawa. 40 plus hours a week for each AP course. No, Mawa, sorry. 40, it's 4 hours a week, 2 hours for class and 2 hours for assignment per week. 4 hours per week, 40 hours of classes in total in the next 6 months. Right? I hope that's clear. So it's not 40 hours per week. It's 40 hours of classes in the next 6 months. How much work is it on weekly basis per course? That's a question from Dhruv. Thanks for the question, Dhruv. So I think you should put in about 4 hours. You should put aside 4 hours per subject per AP course. right? So if you're doing 3 subjects, that means you should be putting about 12 hours, out of which 6 hours goes in class and 6 hours for outside assignments. So that's the time commitment that you're looking at on a weekly basis. The next question we have from Mr. Rajesh: is repetition allowed in AP exam in case of low grades and any cooling periods in between? Repetition is definitely allowed. You can repeat the AP exam. There is no cooling period. So if you write it in grade 10, you can write again in grade 11. Anyways, AP is happening only once a year. So you only get a cycle once a year, right? So there's no cooling period. Thanks for that question. I have another question from me. If I have math AHL, then calculus BC is not to be done. That's right, Avni. Ideally not recommended. Rather, you could look at statistics though, right? Because if you're doing AHL, then you could look at statistics. Students who are doing AIHL can look at calculus, right? Based on your course, because that's a complementary skills to what you have done, right? So for AAHL, statistics. For AIHL, you could look at calculus. Next, I have another question from Anjali. Could you please explain again the College Board site section where we can search for AP subject based on chosen career? Anjali, I'm gonna send those links to you via mail. Please don't worry. And I'm gonna also share the recording of this webinar over the mail. If you don't get it by Monday, you have my number, and I'll probably share it again on the chat section. I think Amit from my team is also there on the call. Amit, can you also put in your number? I think if in case they're not able to reach out to me.
Yeah, sure.
So you can either reach out to me or to, you can either reach out to me or to Amit if in case you don't get the mail by Monday, and we are more than happy to answer any queries. Next, we have another question from Megan. Is it too late to start preparing for SAT, PSAT, ST, and AP exam in grade 11th? It's not late. I mean, it's kind of late, but it's not late. Like, see, the point is, we should, like, if we were in a 10th grade, then we will be, if we are discussing about whether it will be late in grade 11, I think that it makes sense to discuss that. Now we are already in grade 11th, right? So it doesn't matter. That's the time that you have. So I think now you should not waste any time and start planning things well, because you only have another 4 attempts for SAT. So there is December, March, May, August. These are the 4 attempts. Between these 4 attempts, you need to finish your SAT if in case you're writing SAT. If it's ACT, then another 5 attempts. So you have to finish that. And if in case you want to write AP, you only have 1 go at it, which is in the month of May, right? So Megan, if in case you want to specifically discuss your case, more than happy to answer the question. So I've dropped in my number. You can reach out to me. We can probably have a one-on-one conversation and help you plan out things. Anjali, please share the link here for this. So recording link I can't share right now, Anjali, because the meeting is still going on, but the other 2 links I'll be sharing on the mail. I don't want to disturb the screen right now. Next, I have a question from Paras. If one writes 2 AP test papers, one in 9th, 11th, and one in 12th, which score would colleges accept? Okay, I'm assuming you're saying you're talking about the same paper. You've done once in grade 11th and once in grade 12th, right? So it's up to you. You will have to submit the scores, right? So it depends on you. If you want to submit 11th grade score, you submit 11th grade score. If you want to submit 12th grade score, you submit 12th grade score. So it's up to you which AP do you want to submit. If a kid does AE, HL, does AP calculus, AB or BC helps? Okay, I'm
sorry, I meant AI.
AI.
I'm sorry, it was a typo. I meant AI.
No problem. No problem. Yeah, thanks for the clarification. Yes, so for the AI, yes, I personally, again, you know, for some reason you will find different opinions from different people. There is no right answer, wrong answer. But I personally feel if you're doing AIHL, you can take calculus ABBC, because AIHL, and if in case, assuming, right, it also depends on what major are you looking for, right? If you're looking something in engineering, then AIHL is considered to be a lower level maths, right? So to compensate for that, you want to write AP calculus, AB and BC, showcase that, you know what, though I took AIHL, but I'm good in this as well, right? So you're showcasing.
What about economics major?
For economics major as well, AIHL is considered. So economics is one of those subjects where whether it's US or UK, they'll definitely look at your math scores, for sure, right? So economics, actually, if you look at economics, I would have recommended statistics, but since the child is doing AIHL, then I would not say statistics because AIHL is largely about statistics, right? So it might become a repeat, but yes, calculus AB BC would definitely help.
And is it just since we are talking, is AIHL the right thing for economics, or it should be AAHL for economics? Because my child is still in grade 10, so she still has the option. But she was.
I would say maybe AIHL. I would recommend that.
AA.
And AIHL.
Okay.
You know, you want to keep the options open. I've seen kids very clear in grade 9th and 10th, and they change in grade 11, right? So you want to make sure you have the higher level course slightly, just to make sure if in case the student deviates from their choice and want to do something else, they still have those options open.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Or the other plan is you take AIHL and complement that with your calculus AB or BC.
Okay.
So that could be another plan, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great, welcome. Next, I have a question from Avni. Please share a number for free first consultation in psychology good choice for STEM kid or AP stats. Avni, I have shared my number here, and I think Amit has also shared the number. So you could reach out to Amit. He can set up meeting with me, or you could reach out to me directly. Either way is fine. Then I have another question. Okay, you have asked a question as well. Is psych a good choice for STEM kid or AP stats? I would say AP stats more than psych. So I would say AP stats. I'll go with the AP stats. Anjali, Pradeep got the link. Okay, thanks Anjali. Thanks for sharing. I think we got the link. I think one link Anjali has already shared, and another link I think Mr. Nagendra has shared. So guys, if in case you want to don't want to wait for the mail, please pick up these links from the chat section because you may not have it after we end the call. We have another question from Mr. Rajesh. For medicine, what are the preferable AP subject choices, please? There is no right and wrong answer again, Mr. Rajesh, because it depends on like you want to go to pure med or is something related to bio or chem. So bio and chem obviously are the two subjects that you should keep. And in addition to bio and chem, you can think about the third subject. So most of the people go with maths because, if the child is in grade 9th or 10th, by the time they reach 11th, they realize medicine is a very, very long journey. And I've seen a lot of kids deviating from that major after realizing that it's going to be 8 to 9 years that they're going to spend for this. So most of them actually drops out and think about not doing AP. Not doing medicine. So I would say take a safer choice. You could do chem, you could do bio, and in addition to that, maybe maths. I think that would probably help. If in case you're talking about HL subjects, if it's AP, then again, bio is one, chem is another one. If the child is in ISC, then bio, chem are the two subjects. And if in case medicine is very sure, then maybe psych is another one that you could look at if it's medicine, right? Because medicine has some sort of relation generally with the psych. So I would say you can look at psych. We have another question from Mr. Balaji. Can you let us know if you do profile development? If so, since 9th or later too? No, Mr. Balaji, we don't do profile development. But I can definitely tell you different people in the industry who do it. More than happy to help, happy to have a chat one-on-one and probably discuss and see if I can be of any help to you. If so, since 9th or later, the earlier you start, the better it is, Mr. Balaji. Like there is no age for this, right? I mean, there is no right and wrong answer again here. The earlier you start, the more time the child will have, because as you probably would have realized, 11th and 12th is really, really hectic. They will have a lot of school workload, and in addition to that, they have SAT, ACT, AP, and whatnot, right? So you want to make sure that you've done the major part of your profile in the grade 9th and 10th, so that in 11th and 12th you're just continuing on it, and it's not a new thing that you have to start from scratch. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Balaji. Next is Miss Ketki. What if it physics major? I'm assuming it's a follow-up question to something. Let me go back and check. I think Ketki has asked another question earlier. I'm assuming you're saying, Ketki, that if it's a physics major, what are the APs, right? Again, I would not know often. I think, as I said, those links which I think Miss Anjali and Mr. Nagendra has shared, I think you could go to those links and play around with that thing, right? If you click on physics major, it will tell you what are the AP courses, and between those AP courses, then you can pick depending on student to student, right? So depending whether it's based on the major, based on the career, based on the college, I think please go to that platform. It's a platform developed by the college board themselves, so it will be more, I would say, more authentic than what I am saying. I would honestly say. So yeah, please look at that. Then another question from Mr. Balaji. The AP does usually hit the regular 10th IGCSE exam. How do we manage that this time? I'll get in touch. Very great question, Mr. Balaji. I think that's the problem that almost everybody faces, right? With especially with IG. If in case I'm assuming the child is in Greenwood High, so they follow May June cycle, right? So for the schools which are following Feb March cycle, it's completely fine. They could do the exam in May, AP exams in May, but for the schools which are following May June cycle, it is tough. Again, I think you'll have to manage it. I think you'll have to, and that's what I say. Start now, prepare early, right? So that you are not doing it alongside your school curriculum. So let's say if in case they're writing 8 subjects in IGCSE, they have 2 more subjects for AP. So they're basically writing exams for 8 subjects in the month of May. So that's how you can consider it, right? So, but yes, you will have to manage the time. There is no other option. However, they have something called late testing. If in case for some reason you have not, if in case there is a clash between IG and AP exam date, you can ask for a late testing and they can provide you a late testing option, but that also happens within a month period. So around June time, early June is when that late testing happens. Okay, next I have a question from Ms. Shastri. If the students are studying in US, when do they take APs? Is it still once a year in May? That's right. It's still once a year in May, even if they're studying in AP, in US. But the only thing is, you know what happens? They do it like a course. They do it like a regular course. Like we have IGCSE, IB, and CBSE and ISC. They have a curriculum. AP is a curriculum in US in a lot of schools, right? So they do it along with the school. So they don't have to do external thing, right? So that's the difference between US and India, like when you talk about the APs. Does AP exam coincide with IB 11th grade exam? Just inquisitive. Great question again, Mr. Balji, but 11th grade is an internal exam. It's not an external exam, right? So the external exam is only in grade 10th, which is IGCSE, and grade 12th, which is IBBP. Grade 11th is an internal exam. The date sheet for that is decided by the school. Unfortunately, that's also in May. So yes, it will coincide, though it's not the final exam. It's not like a board exam. It's more like an internal exam, which is being conducted by the school, if that helps. Yeah. Great. I think those were all the questions that I can see. Any other questions? Anybody who probably want to unmute themselves and ask question, not comfortable putting it in the chat, please do that. I'll put in my number and Amit's number once again, just so that it's there on the top. My number is anyways there on the screen as well. Yeah, so just put up the numbers again, if in case you would like to reach out to us. I hope the session was useful. I think that's really, really important. I hope at least since you guys have given like important 1 hour on the weekend, I hope you guys would have gained some knowledge out of it, which can definitely help the child and you to take some call. We would definitely be doing another session on SATs and ACTs sometime next month. And we will, if in case you guys are okay, we would probably send you the mailers for the invite for those webinar as well. If in case at any point of time you feel that it's, I mean, we have kind of filled up your inbox, please feel free to drop us a mail saying if you don't want any mails from us, we would definitely stop it. We don't want to spam. So yes, I think we will be doing more sessions on the SAT and ACT in the upcoming months, probably in the month of November or December. So if in case you guys are interested, feel free to join. Also, if in case somebody wants to write diagnostic test, SAT and ACT free diagnostic test, they could go and register on our website. Amit, if you can put the link for the free diagnostic test on the chat section. So students can go and register there and do a free diagnostic test. They will get a detailed report for SAT and ACT. You don't have to talk to us. You don't have to pay anything. It's just free of cost.
How many can we write?
You can write one each, one for SAT and one for ACT. It's a diagnostic test, but like an actual SAT, ACT.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. We do have a program where you can take 10 tests. So it's a 10 test series. We call it as SAT Lite or ACT Lite. If somebody wants to do that, you can opt for that as well.
And since the students get the feedback as well, so on each of those tests?
So it depends on the program that you would like to opt for. If in case you want to just opt for the basic one, you get the test report, which is a detailed report. It talks about every topic, every section, how well the child has done, where they have gone wrong, what they have done wrong. They will also get the answer explanations for every question. So it's largely a self-driven program where the child will be doing that on their own once they get a report from us. But if you want to take a next step forward, you could also ask for faculty help, wherein they can discuss things with the faculty. You do have that option, but that doesn't come with the basic plan.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, I have a few more questions here from Mr. Sriram. Are APs useful for Singapore or other non-US countries? So Canada, yes, they are useful. Singapore, again, for profile development, right? So Singapore, just like SAT, they don't need SAT, right? It's not mandatory, but they give you an option to submit all your scores. If you have done any competitive exam apart from your school, you can submit your scores and then help you to strengthen your profile, right? So directly, it won't. Indirectly, it will. So that's how it kind of helps. But there's no right and like clear answer. Like nobody knows what is the weightage they give to these AP exams. Or like if you look at the Singapore application, they also ask you if you've done NEET or JEE, then submit your NEET and JEE ranking as well, right? So I'm sure they consider it somewhere. Another question from Mr. Sriram. Is there an advantage for AP or college app if student is doing IB instead of ISC? For AP or college app? Oh, yes, definitely, Mr. Sriram. As we have discussed, right, whether you're doing an IB or an ISC, it doesn't really matter, right? So I think what you need to do is, as we discussed in the entire webinar, right, you need to figure out why you are writing the AP, right? First, figure out the objective for writing the AP. And based on that, right, if it's profile development, then you will write certain set of APs. If it's just for credits, then you will write certain set of APs, right? Obviously, if you're in IB, then you would not write it for credits. The only reason why you will write it for your profile building. You are to showcase that you've done more than what your peers have done, right? So in that case, you have to choose the subjects very specifically. So that's the probable difference. But yes, definitely IB student or ISC student, they both take AP courses, no doubt. Another question. Thanks, Rinko. Thanks, guys, for feedbacks. I think Mr. Vijay. Okay, sorry, Mr. Vijay. I think it's available on our website. I think probably Amit is not there on the call. I just dropped the link for our website. It's www.reviser.in, rewiser.in. On the top right hand side, there's something called free diagnostic test. If you click on that, you'll be able to find it. If not, probably just drop me a WhatsApp message with your name and email ID. This is my WhatsApp number as well, and I'll get it shared. I'll ask the team to share it with you, if in case you're not able to find it. But yes, it's available on www.reviser.in. On the right hand side, there's something called free diagnostic test. So you can register there and get it. Great. Any other questions? And I know I've taken more than an hour. Any other questions? Amit, can you directly share? Thanks. Can you directly share the link for free diagnostic test? Maybe
Yeah,
that
sure.
URL, that
Sure,
particular URL.
I will do that right away. Sure.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, I'll wait for another minute just to see if in case there are any further questions. Otherwise, we'll. Okay, great. I think we don't have any more questions here. As I said, feel free to reach out to us directly on our numbers, phone call, email, whatever you guys are comfortable with, and we'll be happy to reach out to you and help you understand better on a one-on-one basis. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining in. Wonderful having chat with you guys, and I think we got amazing questions here. Okay, sorry, one question from Anjali. Is this the link for AP diagnostic? No, Anjali, this is only for SAT, ACT. There's no AP diagnostic. I think if you want to look at AP, just visit the College Board website directly based on subjects. And I think that would help because the only thing you need to see is look at the curriculum. Thanks, Uma. Thanks for your feedback. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Have a nice day. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.